Good morning, I'm Gretchen Ho. We're coming to you this Friday, the 12th day of September, bringing Morning Matters because your morning's matters get to the stories that matter today. Former President Rodrigo Duterte's lawyer told the International Criminal Court his client is unfit to stand trial for crimes against humanity due to cognitive impairment. The counsel argued Duterte cannot recall events, dates, or family members and is unable to understand the reason for his detention. President Bongbong Marcos has signed Executive Order 94 establishing the Independent Commission for Infrastructure. Baguio City Mayor Benjamin Magalong confirmed he was invited to the commission but clarified that as an elected official, he cannot formally join. And Senator Robin Padilla denied making an offensive gesture during the national anthem at Monday's Senate session. He clarified that he extended his index finger, which he explained is a sacred gesture in Islam. Welcome to our program, Morning Matters, where we talk about the issues you need to know for the rest of your day. Now, first on the agenda. President Bongbong Marcos has signed Executive Order number 94, establishing the Independent Commission for Infrastructure. The body will investigate alleged corruption and irregularities in flood control and other infrastructure projects nationwide. A News 5 source revealed that former Supreme Court Justices Antonio Carpio and Estela Perlas Bernabe will be among its members, along with a forensic accountant. They were chosen, the source said, for their integrity and expertise. The president earlier noted the commission will have 4 members and stressed that no politicians will be included. Baguio City Mayor Benjamin Magalong confirmed he was invited to serve as an advisor to the upcoming investigation of the Independent Commission on Infrastructure. He clarified, however, that he cannot formally join the body as a member since he is an elected official. Magalong assured that the members of the commission are credible and capable of handling the investigation independently.
I won't be a member of the commission. I'm not allowed being an elected official. But I was asked to help in the aspect of investigation.
In what capacity? Advising lang?
Yes, as an advisor.
DPWH Secretary Vince Dizon said the agency will reinstate the requirement for local government unit sign-offs on national government projects. In an interview with Ted Filon at DJ Chacha, Dizon said a department order formalizing the measure will be issued next week. The secretary also plans to review the history of the policy, including when and why the sign-off requirement was removed. The move aims to strengthen coordination between the DPWH and the LGU, ensuring local authorities provide formal, documented approval for projects in their areas.
Makakaasa po yung ating mga mayors, yung ating mga LGUs na ibabalik po natin to dahil ito po mismo ay direktiba ng Pangulo. As early as next week po, ilalabas na po natin ang department orders.
Public Works Secretary Vince Dizon has filed complaints before the Office of the Ombudsman against DPWH officials and contractors allegedly involved in anomalous flood control projects. MOBA journalist Julie Baiza has a report.
Public Works Secretary Vince Dizon personally went to the Office of the Ombudsman to file complaints against 4 contractors and 20 former DPWH employees involved in anomalous flood control projects. Included in the charge sheet are the so-called Bulacan Group of Contractor or BGC Boys, former District Engineers Henry Alcantara, Bryce Fernandez, and JP Mendoza, as well as Sims Construction, Wawaw Builders, IM Construction, and the Discaya family's St. Timothy Construction. The complaints were graft and malversation of public funds, which are non-bailable and if proven guilty, could amount to a penalty of reclusion perpetua or a lifetime in jail.
Open and shut case ang mga ito. Ibig sabihin, madali po itong mag-establish ng probable cause. Naniniwala kami na madaling i-establish ang probable cause at dahil doon mabilis na ma-file at mabilis din makakadesisyon ang ating mga korte.
The Ombudsman will now conduct preliminary investigation. If it finds probable cause in filing the cases against the accused, it will then elevate the matter to the Sandigan Bayan. Senator Ping Lacson admits he pushed for the filing of cases against the infamous BGC Boys so that the Anti-Money Laundering Councilor AMLAC can freeze their bank accounts and assets immediately. As for the politicians implicated, Dizon says he is putting this into the hands of the Independent Commission for Infrastructure Malacanang is forming.
Hindi namin kayo titigilan. The people deserve justice. Pera ng tao to. Nakita naman natin yung lantarang pagpapakita nito mga taong to nung ninakaw nilang pera sa taong bayan.
On top of the charges, Dizon also asked for an immigration lookout bulletin order to be issued against former DPWH Secretary Manny Bonoan, Candaba Mayor Rene Maglanque, and officials of MBB Global who Senator Lacson accused of conniving over substandard projects in Bulacan as well. Meanwhile, News 5 took a closer look at some of the properties of embattled DPWH Bulacan engineer Bryce Hernandez. Among his prized possessions, a 2023 Urus Performante sports car worth 29 million pesos, a Patek Philippe watch worth 6.5 million pesos, and a Audemars Piguet watch worth 1.2 million pesos. Hernandez became Assistant District Engineer in 2022 and became officer in charge of the District Engineering Office just this year. His appointments were signed by resigned DPWH Secretary Manny Bonoan. As DE, he admitted under oath his salary was only 70,000 pesos per month. During the hearings, it also came up that Hernandez allegedly used a fake license under the name of Marvin Santos de Guzman to enter the casinos. News 5 went to the address in the license, but residents said there's no one living there under that name. The address itself, they said, was also old. News 5 also went to the address in the yearbook posted by Senator Jingoy Estrada, and this is what we saw. High fences, and although we can see what's inside, anyone can tell it's a white property. Off camera, News 5 was actually allowed to step inside, and the residents here confirmed it's where Hernandez has lived for a long time. They also insisted he has no bad record. They say he was even Hermano Mayor in their town fiesta just last March, as if that were proof of innocence.
Simula po, bata pa lang po ay nakikita na rin po siya dito. At ayun nga po, naglalaro-laro na rin po siya dito.
For now, Hernandez remains detained at the Pasay City Jail after a tussle between the Senate and lower house over his custody. His lawyer has filed a writ of amparo at the Pasay Regional Trial Court, citing serious active threats to his safety. A writ of amparo is a judicial remedy that protects an individual's right to life, liberty, and security.
Vice President Sara Duterte's trips abroad have been making headlines this year, with millions already spent on travel. The Office of the Vice President now prepares to defend its 2026 budget proposal in Congress. Here is the report.
As 2025 began, Vice President Sara Duterte embarked on a series of trips abroad. In February, the Vice President, along with her sister Kitty Duterte, visited Japan for a private trip. The following month, she also went to Hong Kong. She eventually flew to the Netherlands to visit her father, former President Rodrigo Duterte, who is currently detained at the ICC facility. The Vice President has since returned to the Netherlands multiple times. She has also traveled to Qatar, Malaysia, Australia, South Korea, and more recently to Kuwait and France in August. According to the Office of the Vice President, as of July 31, the office has spent 20.68 million pesos on her travels within the Philippines and overseas. Of this amount, 7.47 million went to international trips, while 13.2 million was for local travel. From the 62.5 million allocated budget for 2025 travel, around 42 million remains. The OVP clarified, however, that the Vice President shoulders her own personal expenses. The government funds are used only for the mandatory security and civilian staff accompanying her.
We'd like to emphasize that all the travel overseas of the Vice President is covered by a travel authority and did not include any public funds.
For next year, the proposed travel allocation for the OVP has been reduced to 20 million pesos. As of now, Vice President Sara Duterte has a scheduled trip to Japan this month, though this has yet to be confirmed. What is certain is her visit to Naga City this September to join the Peña Francia Festival, where she has also expressed openness to meet with Naga Mayor Leni Robredo. The OVP outlined these travel expenses as part of its preparations for the upcoming House budget hearing, where it will defend its proposed 903 million peso proposed budget for 2026. One of the OVP's flagship programs, the Pagpabago campaign, will continue distributing school bags, supplies, and hygiene kits. However, it will no longer include the Vice President's controversial children's book, Ang Kaibigan, which last year had a 10 million budget request.
We took note of the comments and recommendations of the Congress during the budget deliberation of the OBP last year. So we took note of that. And again, for this year and the years moving forward, the pagbabago bag will include the bag itself, and it will contain school supplies and the dental kits.
It is still unclear whether Vice President Sara Duterte will personally attend today's budget hearing. For News 5, Camille Samonte, We Are One News.
And coming right up, Rodrigo Duterte's lawyer said the former president is unfit to face trial at the ICC because of a cognitive decline. This impairment allegedly prevents Duterte from recalling basic information and understanding the charges against him. We'll talk about that when Morning Matters returns after a quick break. Good morning, I'm Gretchen Ho, and here on Morning Matters, we talk about the most pressing issues and give you the context behind the headlines. Lawyers for detained former President Rodrigo Duterte told the ICC that he is suffering from a deteriorating cognitive condition. Court documents released on Thursday state that the 80-year-old has impairments affecting his memory, orientation, and capacity for reasoning, raising questions about his fitness to stand trial. Duterte was arrested in March on charges linked to killings during his war on drugs. Judges have postponed hearings on the case to first decide on his medical condition. And to help us understand the implications of that development, we have on the show ICC accredited lawyer and executive director for Center for International Law, Attorney Gilbert Andres. Welcome back to Morning Matters.
Good morning, Gretchen, and good morning also to all your viewers.
We had you at the start of the week having all of these questions about the deferment of the proceedings. But now, is it clear to you what is at stake here and your reaction to the defense request for an indefinite adjournment because of the fitness to stand trial?
Well, actually, it's fortunate that the pretrial chamber actually denied that prayer for an indefinite adjournment because, in fact, the pretrial chamber only granted a limited period for the postponement in order to determine Mr. Duterte's fitness for trial.
So, in a sense, that is a positive development for prosecution.
Yes, because, in fact, Gretchen, the pretrial chamber actually, in a sense, granted the prosecutor's request only for a limited time to determine the fitness of Mr. Duterte. Because remember, if there's an allegation of fitness to stand trial, it's actually a factual allegation. So there should be sufficient medical records, medical examination. In fact, the prosecution wants its own prosecutor expert in order to determine Mr. Duterte's fitness or health.
Okay, babasahin ko lang itong nakasulat dito sa sa letter ng defense as to the condition of the former president. Sabi niya, the defense received a neuropsychological evaluation performed by an anonymous expert appointed by the equally anonymous ICC-DC medical officer, and the report corroborated preliminary findings noting a decline in memory, executive functioning, visual constructive abilities, and raising the issue of legal competency as a bar to proceeding with a hearing on the confirmation of charges. And the degree of cognitive decline renders him unfit to stand trial, and judicial accommodations are unlikely to restore functional capacity sufficient for full trial participation, and Mr. D is currently unable to meaningfully participate in the legal proceedings against him. What was on your mind when you saw all of this?
Well, actually, Gretchen, if you look at fitness to stand trial, it's actually a legal term. That's why the prosecution, in its response to the defense, actually stated that the expert, the medical expert, should not only be an expert in the medical field. he or she should also be an expert on legal matters, on the legal proceedings, what it takes to actually stand the rigor of trial. That's why the prosecution also wants its own expert to actually determine the health of Mr. Duterte vis-a-vis the rigors of standing trial. So these are only factual allegations by the defense. There should also be a determination itself by a prosecution expert as well as an independent expert.
So kumbaga parang ang next step dito ay to do medical checks again. Kung we from a medical professional who has both the legal expertise and the medical expertise.
Yes, correct. Because
Pero hindi
it's
ba
not
ito ay
only
provided din ng yung neuropsychologist po ba yun? The doctor provided by the ICC medical office, isn't he competent already?
Yes, but actually there are also some allegations, even by the prosecution, that there are some contradictions or there's just initial findings. So there's actually no 100% corroboration. That's why the prosecutor is asking also for its own medical expert to examine Mr. Duterte based also on the medical records that were provided to the defense. So this is really just what's called equality of arms. Whatever is provided for the defense should also be provided for the prosecution. In fact, we would like to argue that it should also be provided for the victims. And the victims should also, views and concerns should also be heard on this matter.
Okay. Pero in the history of the ICC, has this ever happened? That the suspect has, the main suspect here, the perpetrator, has a cognitive decline and is unable to stand trial. Paano po pagka ganun? Meron na po ba tayong jurisprudence?
Actually, based on the ICC jurisprudence, there has been allegations of not being fit to stand trial, but the chambers have not yet granted any adjournment or any postponement based on being unfit to stand trial. Wala pa pong nag-grant actually yung chambers ng ICC. So this will be a test case and we hope that there will really be a full determination on Mr. Duterte because in fact that was the reason why the confirmation of charges was actually postponed. It's just a limited period so that the pre-trial chamber can look at all of the documents and all of the experts, whether by the defense, independent, or by the prosecutor, so that it has all the necessary information to have a full determination.
In short, the all parties must agree on on a set of facts here that are before them, meaning yun nga po, no, yung medical records na tinatawag, before moving on to the possible outcomes. And speaking of which, if the court does find the former president unfit to stand trial, ibig ko sabihin na hindi siya makapag-participate because of the cognitive decline, hindi na niya maalala. Ano kaya pwedeng mangyari dito sa kaso? Pwede pa rin ba itong magtuloy?
Well, actually, nandun din sa decision ng pre-trial chamber that all parties and participants should be ready in a moment's notice because there's actually a collatilla there that if applicable, then we can say that it will continue on to the confirmation of charges. So this is really just a period to determine the health and fitness of Mr. Duterte. Although I'd also like to add that there was actually a dissenting opinion by one of the judges to say that fitness to stand trial is actually a determination by the trial chamber. But this is still pre-trial. So, in fact, based on the dissenting opinion, it says that this is not within the ambit of the pretrial chamber. It's within the ambit of the trial chamber.
Kumbaga, kailangan mo na mag-proceed to the next stage, which is the actual trial, before this is even determined. Oo. Okay. Posible ba, for example, the former president does have cognitive decline. Is it possible that the people around him will be the ones to speak for him and defend him and state his case? Or kailangan siya mismo yung sumagot sa mga allegations?
Well, in fact, it's provided for in a confirmation of charges under Article 61 of the Rome Statute that the suspect, the person concerned, can even waive his or her presence in a confirmation of charges. So it's not really indispensable for the suspect to really attend a confirmation of charges because such attendance can even be waived by that person.
Oo. Pero sa actual trial, when we get to that, what are the outcomes here? Possible outcomes?
If it's actual trial, it presupposes na-confirm na po yung charges, doon na po talaga yung determination whether fit for trial. If we just based it on the Rome Statute. Oo. And in fact, talagang ang rule talaga, ang general rule when it comes to trial is that there's no trial in absentia. The person who's actually the accused should be present in court.
And can his lawyer speak for him at this point, kahit na may cognitive decline?
Well, it's really a factual presumption. This is a hypothetical, because us lawyers we're really dependent on the instructions of our clients. So there's really that fiduciary element. So that's the reason why. That's the argument of the defense. But the counter-argument of the prosecution is that hindi naman talaga kailangan yung full, na parang at its highest na talagang cognitive, abilities, Hindi naman talaga yung parang in the 20s or in the 50s ni Mr. Duterte. What's important is that he should be determined fit to stand trial. It's a cognitive ability to stand trial o hindi naman to answer exams or to pass the bar exams.
Okay. And if he is determined unfit to stand trial, is an indefinite adjournment possible here for the defense getting that?
Well, I would
eventually
argue
a dismissal.
Okay, it's a hypothetical, so I will answer in a hypothetical way. Hypothetically, it's not indefinite because there's a period also to determine kung continuing pa ba yung isang unfitness to stand trial ng isang tao. So, mayroon pong limited period din yan. Mayroon din pong regular period to check. Kasi pwede namang magbago yung condition ng isang tao. So, I would argue that it should not be indefinite. It should only be a limited period.
Could this lead to eventual dismissal? Kung sakasakali po. Di talagang mapatotohanan na,
Technically, wala pa yung dismissal, Kasi in fact, if you look at Article 61, Paragraph 7 of the Rome Statute, which is the provision and the confirmation of charges, wala ngang word doon na dismiss, The pretrial chamber can only confirm, it can only decline to confirm, or it can adjourn and then give back the document containing charges to the prosecution. Ganito kasi, Gretchen, walang dismissal kasi the prosecution, even if the pretrial chamber has declined to confirm, the prosecution can always refile based on newly discovered evidence. Kaya wala yung word na dismiss. It's really decline.
So is adjournment in the same category as table or archive? Parang impeachment o ano?
Okay. Hindi siya talaga archive kasi merong provision to adjourn and to give back to the prosecutor. Kasi yung prosecutor pwede pa siyang mag-further investigation Pwede pa siyang mag-amend or pwede pa siyang mag-change sa document containing charges. So marami pang pwedeng gawin ang prosecutor based on its prosecutorial discretion.
In the trial phase, they can still
Ah,
change all of that.
Ano pa
Or,
to? I'm still talking about the confirmation of charges.
okay,
So,
okay,
pre-trial
okay.
pa rin ito. Oh.
So now the prosecution can adjust to this defense request and the way. Ano yung possible adjustments here from the prosecution side that you're seeing?
Actually, marami naman pwedeng gawin ng prosecution with this recent developments In fact, they're insisting na there should be a prosecutor expert witness to actually examine Mr. Duterte.
Okay, I guess beyond medical arguments, how do you think the legal team of the former president can use this to influence the pace and direction of the proceedings? Has this been used as a legal remedy before? And parang medyo this piece of news caught everybody off guard. Last night it came out, the document. Pwede bang parang legal strategy ito? Anong sa iyong palagay?
Well, it can be a legal strategy. Oh, I can say that. Oh, but well, for the views naman and concerns naman ng victims we'd like to emphasize that the victims also have their right to justice and their right to the truth, which is a right of the victims under international law. So we also hope that the pretrial chamber will also consider the views and concerns of the victims who are an indispensable part of this process.
Is it possible for the court to be able to piece together the whole case, even without responses from the main suspect, and just take from his former statements? Medyo makapal-kapal naman po yata yung mga nabanggit ng dating presidente.
Okay, two answers, Gretchen. In fact, the defense has already indicated that they're not presenting any evidence with respect to the confirmation of charges. And number two, actually in the confirmation of charges, the onus probandi, the burden of proof is really on the prosecutor. So it's really the prosecutor who will present the evidence to show that there are reasonable grounds to believe that this should proceed to trial. Substantial grounds to believe so that this will proceed to trial. And in fact, wala nga talagang pinipresent na witness. It's very rare na talagang may in-person na witness. It's really more of witness affidavits, witness statements under oath na pinipresent ng prosecutor.
And with this development, do you remain confident that the trial will proceed?
Well, we really hope that first there will be a confirmation of charges, and really hope that the confirmation of charges will really proceed to trial proper. That's really the hope of the victims, because they have waited for justice with respect to this war on drugs.
Okay, and I guess that goes as far as the trial also is concerned. In the meantime, maraming salamat for helping us understand that latest development. Of course, the defense of the former president submitting a request for an indefinite adjournment again due to an argument of being unfit to stand trial. Maraming salamat. We have Attorney Gilbert Andres, ICC accredited lawyer and Executive Director of Center for International Law, for joining us this morning. Now, from flood control projects to House leadership talks, there's a lot going on at the House of Representatives, and we'll discuss these matters with ML Party's Representative Laila De Lima when we return after a short break. Keep it here on One News. Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Matters here in One News. Mamamayang Liberal Party list Representative Laila De Lima has warned that lawmakers may initiate impeachment proceedings against Commission on Audit Commissioner Mario Lipana over alleged conflict of interest. De Lima raised concerns after it was revealed that Lipana's wife, Marilu Lorio Lipana, heads a firm that secured millions of pesos worth of flood control projects from the Department of Public Works and Highways. De Lima said this could amount to betrayal of public trust and even graft and corruption, both impeachable offenses under the Constitution.
One of us or some of us may initiate impeachment proceedings against him because it clearly falls under one of the grounds, betrayal of public trust.
And joining us today to discuss this issue and other matters, we have Mamamayang Liberal Party List Representative Laila De Lima. Magandang umaga po sa inyo, Congresswoman.
Magandang umaga, Gretchen, and thank you for having me in your program, Morning Matters. And good morning also to the viewers and listeners.
Okay, let's begin with first the story before this interview. Can you elaborate on your concerns regarding Commissioner Mario Lipana of the Commission on Audit and his wife's company, Olympus Mining and Builders Group Philippines Corporation? Help us understand how deep this conflict of interest goes and how it could influence the investigation.
Actually, Gretchen, nung nasa hearing nights, the budget hearing for COA, the COA budget, two of my colleagues raised that issue before before my turn to interpellate. So these are Congressman Elijah San Fernando and Congressman Tino. So they raised that. They mentioned about Commissioner Lipana's wife being actually a contractor or an officer of a construction company. So I followed through their line of questioning and I said that, to me, this is clearly impeachable because there is a clear case of conflict of interest. Hindi lang nga ito a case of potential conflict of interest, but it's real conflict of interest. Kasi nga, di ba, your COA is supposed to be, looking into the regularity, looking into how public funds are used. And now in the middle of all this, a lot of revelations are coming out about corruption involving contractors, officials and employees of DPWH, and even lawmakers. So how can we expect a COA commissioner to truly be able to fulfill his mandate if he is related to a contractor or an official of a contractor? So I practically pleaded to the COA chairperson that he better talk first to the commissioner concerned, Commissioner Lipana, because I understand he is on medical leave. So sabi ko, sana kausapin nyo pagbalik. Kasi of course we cannot force him to resign. Because if he has any delicadeza, he should have resigned by now. But we have seen that, we have not seen that yet. So, kung hindi makakausap o makukumbinsi na mag-resign, because resignation is a personal decision, it's a voluntary act, then we have no choice, Congress, especially the House of Representatives, who has the sole and exclusive power to initiate impeachment proceedings against impeachable officials, which include a COA commissioner.
Okay. In the event that the COA commissioner does resign, isn't that also sort of giving him a way out? Ayun nga po yung isang kritisismo ng ilan na parang nagre-resign na lang, tinatanggal na lang, but the accountability is the factor that's missing here. If ever he does resign, is impeachment out of the options already?
No. Impeachment will still proceed. I'm sorry. So you're talking about resignation.
Opo, kung umalis na, wala na.
Yes,
it doesn't mean, kumbaga, umalis na ho siya. Oo.
Correct. Hindi ho ibig sabihin yan, hindi na siya pwedeng kasuhan. Ang maapektuhan lang po ng resignation ay hindi na po siya maaalis, hindi na siya ma-remove dahil nga nag-resign na. He cannot be removed from office anymore because nag-resign na. So hindi na pwedeng impeachment because nga the sole objective of impeachment is to remove impeachable officials na based on valid grounds. But it doesn't mean that no other cases can be filed against him. There will be still cases, especially criminal cases, and also, criminal cases with respect to the criminal aspect of violation of the Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Law.
Am I correct in my understanding that the COA commissioner is an appointee of the president, and he can also so choose to remove him from this position?
An impeachable official can only be removed by impeachment. So it's a special set. It's a special set of officials. The president, the vice president, members of the Supreme Court. So just the Supreme Court, hindi yung mga other judges of lower courts, and then constitutional bodies and the ombudsman. So constitutional bodies would include, there are 3 constitutional commissions: COA, COMELEC, and the Civil Service Commission. So there is a special class of high officials that the Constitution says that they can only be removed through the process of impeachment. So kahit nga ma-remove sila, halimbawa, tuloy ang impeachment because he has not resigned, tuloy ang impeachment, and is found guilty. And therefore, the consequence, the only consequence is that he will be removed from office. But other liabilities will continue. Civil liability, criminal liability will continue. It does not extend to, so parang the reason why there are sets of high officials that may be removed only through impeachment, kasi nga because of the nature of their position. It would be difficult na every now and then they will be subjected to all sorts of cases, all sorts of threats for removal or for filing for removal. No, so kailangan it's through the impeachment proceedings, which is now a combination of both legal and political process. And it starts with the House of Representatives.
Okay, we've been looking at the DPWH lately, and also these contractors. But in terms of investigating COA, do you think we'd be able to open a can of worms looking in this direction? And saan po kaya maganda magsimula in terms of investigating them if the commissioner is on medical leave? Ano? Kasi sa DPWH, si Vince Dizon po ang inatasan na mag-cleansing, internal cleansing. Pero dito po sa COA, how do you imagine that could go?
Well, it really depends on the COA leadership. It depends on the COA chairperson, that they can do it, they can do their own internal investigation. But unfortunately, nung sa questioning nga nila Congressmen San Fernando and Tino, it looks like COA has not done anything about that. And sabi nila, they just learned about this conflict of interest sa media. And then after that, anong ginawa? Nothing. So I even asked them, did you talk already to the commissioner? Hindi pa daw. So why? I mean, they cannot, meron din own act of misfeasance or malfeasance on the part of the COA leadership, that they know that there is a real and serious issue involving their co-commissioner, and yet they're not doing anything, whether internal or any other remedy. So while ideally COA on its own can already initiate its own inquiry into the matter, validate everything about the status of the commissioner and also of his wife in relation to the construction company, and recommend his removal or vote or recommend for his removal. But of course they cannot do it because it's the commissioner is an impeachable official. But they can always refer the matter either to the ombudsman and even to the House of Representatives in initiating an impeachment complaint.
But is the House looking to subpoena the COA commissioner? And
not yet at this point. I actually just floated the idea that if nothing happens, if the commissioner would stay in his office despite this clear case of conflict of interest, then what I said yesterday in the hearing is that the House would have no choice anymore but to initiate impeachment proceedings. One of us or several of us can always initiate an impeachment proceedings.
Okay. Speaking of conflicts of interest, no, there's another one that has been brought to light, and that is the connection of former DPWH Secretary Manny Bonoan with Global Crete Company Corporation with MVP Corporation that is owned by his own daughter. Sa palagay po ninyo, pareho po itong itong kaso na to, yung kay Co-Commissioner pati kay DPWH Secretary Bonoan. Sabi po ni Vince Dizon, wala pong direct connection si Secretary Bonoan. Pero anak po niya eh. Paano po yun?
Oo nga, and then yung disclosure also of interest or possible conflict of interest has the former Public Works Secretary did it, disclosing that he has a relative, a daughter. So these are more than ethical issues or issues of ethics, and this has something to do really with this whole problem. Kasi nga nakikita na natin yung the hugeness, the gravity, and the magnitude of all this. So interlinkage between DPWH officials, contractors, and also lawmakers. So that would be subject of the investigation. That should be covered also by the EO-created independent commission, EO 94. Now, if both the Senate and the House will not stop in their own investigations, that can also be covered. But with respect to that, talking about that, talaga po namang lalong tumitindi, lalong lumalakas ang posisyon, ang argumento na dapat ipaubaya na lang ng Congress, both Senate and the House of Representatives, yung pag-iimbestiga dyan sa mga anomalya na yan tungkol sa mga infrastructure projects, especially flood control projects. So, yun ang aking palagi ko po sinasabi. As you know, from day one, kinontra ko na kaagad yung pagtatayo ng infracom dito sa House. And then, lumabas nga mga pangalan ng mga miyembro ng House of Representatives. Meron din mga lumabas na pangalan ng 2 senador. Yung reveal nung former Assistant District Engineer Bryce Hernandez. So, both houses of Congress are should be also under scrutiny. And you cannot expect the Senate and the House of Representatives to really, truly, independently, and seriously look into the possible involvement of their own peers,
correct,
their own members. Only an independent body.
Taking a look at the PCIJ report, there appears to be 5 vice chairmen out of 20 of the Infracom linked to contractors. Kamusta po yung request ni Congressman Shell Jokno dun nga po sa disclosure of conflicts of interest? How did that turn out?
Okay, during the last hearing, September 9, yes, during this, and that is the second hearing of Infracom. Because in the first hearing, Congressman Shell Jokno moved for the disclosure of financial interest, if any, of all the members of the Infracom. Now, during the second hearing in September 9, most of the members of the Infracom submitted the certification. And I understand that all of those who submitted say that they have no financial interest whatsoever or business interest in the subject matter of the investigation. I just don't know. I don't have the names or I don't have the number as to who or how many among the members of the Infracom yung hindi nakapag-submit that kind of certification or a disclosure.
Correct.
If they have such financial
who would
interest.
have the information po? Who would have the information?
It should be the secretariat of the Infracom. They should have
okay.
the information, and I will
All right.
also try to find out about that. Yes.
Okay, Congresswoman, what do you make of this debate in the Senate over custody of Bryce Hernandez? Matagal pong debate yun, ano? Pero ultimately, he ended up in the Pasay City Jail. What are your thoughts on that?
Para sa akin, hindi po tama yon na napag-agrihan na po ng Senate leadership and House leadership na doon na lang sa PNP Custodial Center. In fact, that was really a good compromise. Okay, ano yung background? Itong si Bryce, si Assistant District Engineer Bryce, na-contempt na siya doon sa Senado. Pero pinahiram siya sa House of Representatives kasi sinomon din siya ng Infracom. And then, nung araw na yon, ng September 9, nung nag-testify siya, bago pa man siya mag-testify, sinabi na niya, kung pwede po, wag niyo na po akong ibalik sa Senado. So, tinanong siya kung bakit. Natatakot po kasi ako. Tapos, then, he started disclosing those things about the alleged involvement of two senators, Senator Joel Villanueva and Senator Jinggoy Estrada. So, the Infracom, the chairpersons, deemed it best to render protection dito kay Bryce. And since dati na siyang naka-detain sa Senate, na-contempt siya doon, to be fair, middle ground. Kasi ano yung pinaka-motibo ng House of Representatives, yung Infracom, kung bakit gusto rin siyang i-protect. Dahil nga, may mga siniwalat siya ng mga
na mabibigat
dalawang
po at
senador.
hindi po biro. Oo, yung kanyang
Hindi
mga
po biro
pangalang
yun.
ibinigay.
So natural lamang na mangangamba itong si Bryce Hernandez na ibabalik siya sa Senado kasi nandun yung kanyang mga bigla na lang tinuro. No? So, it's a sort of a compromise, middle ground. Diyan na lang sa PNP Custodial Center. And it's a relatively safer place.
Correct.
Kung i-compare mo sa ordinary jail facility like the city jail. So mali po yun. And the tama nung una ni Senate President Tito Soto na he was also insisting out of interparliamentary courtesy, nag-usap kasi yung dalawang leaders na gano'n ang agreement, tama siya. Kaya lang, unfortunately, nung after the break, I wasn't sure if it was submitted to a vote by the plenary.
Senator, I don't mean to bring this up, but I know you had stayed at the PNP Custodial Center. What do you know of the Pasay City Jail? Marami pong nangangamba dito para sa buhay ni Bryce.
Opo. Yung mga city jails kasi ordinarily or generally, unang-una, grabe ang congestion. So, pag grabe ang congestion, meron security risks. Wala ka naman, halo ka sa maraming mga detainees dyan sa city jail. So, mas vulnerable siya to harm than when sa PNP Custodial Center. PNP Custodial Center, comparatively speaking, is safer than any ordinary jail facility. Although, alam niyo naman yung nangyari sa akin noon na na-hostage ako. Pero na-hostage ako within the facility. At siguro, hindi naman siguro mangyayari na yon. Kasi nga, meron lang kasi mga security lapse on that very day, October na 2022, na ako'y na hostage. But if you compare the facilities of the PNP Custodial Center in terms of security, mas secure, masasabi ko, ang PNP Custodial Center than any ordinary facility, especially the very congested city jails. Kasi ang mga nagbabantay normally din sa PNP Custodial Center, depende sa status ng detainee. Meron nga staff personnel, and also, of course, PNP officials.
Okay, so will the House be appealing this arrangement? Would you know of any talk na?
I have no knowledge as to whether the House leadership or the Infracom leadership has that intention. Pero siguro, ako mismo, I will recommend to them to further talk to the Senate leadership
Correct.
But I
Okay.
think the lawyer of Hernandez can also take care of that. He has legal remedies. Itong
That's
si
correct.
the lawyer of Hernandez.
Okay, before you go, I will not be remiss in asking this question. I wanted you to give your 2 cents on the document that came out last night, which was on the request for an indefinite adjournment by the defense of former President Rodrigo Duterte in the ICC. They argue that he is unfit to stand trial and that Mr. Duterte suffers from significant cognitive deficiencies that affect his memory, his daily executive functioning, his visual constructive abilities, his orientation to place and time, and limiting his capacity for complex reasoning. What are your thoughts on that, Congresswoman?
Okay, ICC as a body really has the discretion and the prerogative to grant requests like that. Now, it is of course premised on a validation or verification of the grounds put forward by the lawyer. Yung mga sinabi mong ground kanina, Gretchen. So I suppose there is a way, or there was a means and process on the part of the judges, the ICC as a body, to first validate or verify that condition as cited by the lawyer in that request. So we would not know now how factually correct yung mga sinite na grounds. But again, I don't think the ICC will grant that kung hindi muna nila nagkaroon o hindi muna nila verify yung sinasabing condition of the former president. Ang atin na lang we are just hoping now na yung indefinite suspension of the proceedings ng ICC won't take that long para masimulan na, because the confirmation of charges sa proceedings, importante po yan. Kasi dyan magde-decide ang ICC kung itutuloy pa nga yung trial. So, cognitive impairment, so that is something that is both physical and also psychological and maybe emotional, cognitive impairment. So, again, siguro naman, nagkaroon ng verification muna on the part of the ICC dyan sa sinasabing
actually, this is
cognitive
a letter,
impairment.
this is a letter from
Yes.
the defense, no? Ito po yung kanilang
Yes.
request. Pero I think they gave a limited period of deferment para po ay maaral po nila yung tunay na medical condition ng dating presidente. So mukhang hindi pa po naka-confirm, but there is a neuropsychologist who did the medical examination upon the former president. Pero kung sakasakali po, I mean, how will this affect the pursuit for justice for the drug war victims? Could this, ultimately lead to this trial being cut short?
Well, depende talaga yan dyan sa health condition of the former president. Of course, on the part of the victims, the families of the victims. Siyempre, because they've been crying out for justice, matagal na nila itong inihingi. Buti nga't may ICC at hindi dito sa atin. So, siyempre, nakakapangamba rin on the part of the families kasi para sa kanila, kailangan may hustisya. Panagutin yung talagang may kagagawan. Lalo na yung pinaka-mastermind, sino nag-utos dun sa mga pagpatay na yon, at alam naman natin na it's the former president. So, ang feeling ng ang feeling ng mga victims or the families of the victims, I would suppose, ay gusto talaga nila na matuloy ang trial. So, siguro, yung iba sa kanila nagdadasal na, Lord, huwag niyo na munang kunin yung dating Pangulo para harapin muna niya yung wills of justice.
Pero
Kasi,
kayo ho, kayo ho, ano pong nararamdaman po ninyo tungkol dito? Kayo rin po ay isang biktima nito. At pangalawa, I guess, do you believe in the possibility that this could be the way that the president's health is heading?
There's always that possibility. We really do not know. We really do not know when his time would end in this world, on Earth. So it would be God's, it's nasa ano na yan, nasa ating Panginoon kung kukunin na niya ang isang tao. Ako, I've always believed, if it's your time, it's your time. Kaya nga, sabi ko nga, siguro naman, hindi pa naman siya kukunin talaga because he has to face the wheels of justice. And then kahit mawala na siya, hindi naman po ibig sabihin mag-stop na yung ICC investigation. Kasi meron pa dyan matitira na mga lilitisin din at pwedeng litisin ng ICC. You know, there's still the former PNP chief, now senator, na alam natin na isama yan ng prosecutors dun sa charges. So,
hindi po nagtatapos ito sa dating presidente.
Yes, hindi po yan magtatapos sa kanya lang kasi meron pang mga iba na mga dapat panagutin.
Okay, maraming salamat po for weighing in on with us on the ICC developments and also the flood control probe. Thank you so much for your time this Friday. We have Mamamayang Liberal Party List Representative Laila De Lima.
Thank you. Good morning.
Moving on over to sports, Las Pilipinas men are set for a historic debut as the Philippines host the FIVB Volleyball Men's World Championship. The national team opens its campaign against 11-time African champion Tunisia later today at the Mall of Asia Arena, following a grand opening ceremony. 32 of the world's top squads, including defending champion Italy and world number 1 Poland, will compete in Manila until September 28. Las Pilipinas, ranked number 82 globally, has trained under Italian coach Angiolino Frigoni, who urged Filipinos to pack the stands and cheer the team on. Again, the FIVB Games open today. It's September 12, Friday. That will be held until September 28. Let's head on over to our sports venues and catch the games for a once-in-a-lifetime experience. The FIVB Men's Volleyball World Championships are here in the Philippines, and we celebrate that. I heard there might be a possibility of having Laila Barros too, so let's watch out for that later today. Now that wraps up today's episode of Morning Matters. We hope we've given you the right start to your morning. Let's go ahead and make the day matter. My name is Gretchen Ho. We are One News, all sides, all the time.